What's going on, everybody? You've got the cardboard coach here with your boy, Coach Co. And we have a very special guest on the podcast here today. We've got Candace Martino from CandaceMartinoTV. How are you doing today?
I'm so excited to be here. I know it's been something that we've been trying to connect with over some time. So I appreciate reaching out this past week.
Why are you lying for? You excited to be here?
Yeah,
I'm
not
just
lying. I'm being honest. I'm ready to go.
I'm just busting balls. I'm just busting balls. For those of you who don't know who you are, do you want to give a little brief description as to what you are, what you're all about? Candace Martino TV sounds serious. It's good.
Yes. I spent 5+ years as a weekend sportscaster, local television for CBS affiliates, bounced back and forth. I left because of low pay. I was making about $14 an hour with a master's degree, wanted to stay in sports to some degree while bringing my creative and my broadcast side into another niche. And I happened to find myself in sports cards. So that's kind of where it's at. I'm going to stay true to who I am and what I was, and that's being a sports reporter. So Candace Martino TV is what you're going to get. You're going to get interviews. You're going to get, insightful information and breaking news. So I'm bringing the whole broadcast world into the hobby and trying to do something that's never been done before.
I like that. The never been done before is definitely something that's enticing. What brought you into the sports space? Why did you choose sports?
Yeah, I'm a former college basketball player, both Division I and Division II. It's a way of life. It's something I never saw myself separate from, and in a sense, it's my identity. So when you build a professional career off of it, it's hard to see yourself outside of it, right?
Yeah.
It is my connection to the game. The athletes that I was covering prior was my connection again to the field, to the sideline, to the locker rooms. So it again, it's a way of life, and it's what I see myself doing for longevity.
B-ball is life.
Yes, ball is always life.
I see you teasing the handles sometimes, and I'm like, this girl can ball, like that's like that's like a whole sect of your content. You're like,
yeah,
go
no,
one-on-one with me. Let's do this.
Yeah, I love basketball. I don't play as much as what I would like to, just for the fear of getting hurt. I tore my ACL a couple years ago, so I am very touch and go with playing pickup, especially with non-former college athletes. No, no disrespect to anybody else, but I'm just not willing to go through a 12-month rehab from somebody hitting into my knee that can't control their body. So I pass on that unless it's professional or, prior college athletes in a league.
There's like a prerequisite to play with you.
Yeah, there has to be. I did the rehab once. I'm just not going to do it again. It was 10 to 15 months and it was miserable.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine working towards that and not having an end goal of getting back on the court. So we're going to leave it at that.
Just like being able to walk again,
Yeah, I was non-weight bearing for 12 weeks, which was just, miserable is the only word I can use to describe that. So prerequisites it is.
Yes. I mean, I don't blame you, honestly. You said that it kind of ties you to, I mean, in so many words, you said it was your identity, right? So it's been awesome to watch you develop in the space. Ironically enough, you and I first started talking because of a piece of content that I made about someone who employed you, who shall not be named, by the way. And I think that I definitely found that you were genuine. Number one, you were willing to have an actual conversation. And that was one of the things where, like, if anyone knows me, I mean, I say what I say, but I'm also like, I'm willing to have a conversation about it, right? Like, I'm not just like out throwing shade. Like, I want to talk about this because at the end of the day, a lot of the things that I talk about, I think we can improve upon. And like, I scrutinize all the damn time, and that's cool. And I deserve it. There's a lot of things that I maybe misread or mishear or missay, and that's fine. But I think that no one should be immune to criticism, especially if it's like part of their business model. And so I don't know where I want to go with this. Let's talk a little bit about past employment as a whole.
Okay.
Okay. So do you want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you were doing in the space prior to where
Yeah.
you are right now?
Yeah. So I jumped in mid-February of this
Okay.
past year, so 2023, entered a role as a social media specialist. Now, for some who might not know my background, I went viral last fall for a post related to sports broadcast. 2,000 followers, over 222,000. I've lost some at the time, which is okay. I'm redefining my brand right in the sports hobby. So I jumped over to the position as a sports or social media specialist to help grow this said company, who was also considered a startup, year 2, year 3 at the time. And it was a little disruptive, a little chaos, disorganization, which is as expected
Normal, yeah.
being in a
Yeah.
startup, and rightfully so. Given my background, my professionalism, my competitiveness, I hate doing things that I don't feel like I'm progressing. And unfortunately, in my previous position, it was one step forward, 15 steps back. For whatever
15.
reason, 50. I'll
That's a
even say
lot. That's
50.
a
I'll
lot of
even say
steps
50
back.
at this
That's not even
point.
like 1 and 2. That's like
No, we're gonna
that's like
say
across
50.
the
I'll
street
even go
afterwards,
50. Yeah,
Like
it's like way, way back, around the world and back. But it was out of my control, and I felt very limited what I could bring to the table with my skill set, right? It was a lot of hoops, a lot of
But you like
hurdles that I had to
hoops though.
get through. And yeah, I like to ball, but not that type of ball, right? Like it's like crossover, we're going past and we're doing a layup. And unfortunately, that crossover was not crossovering. So there's a lot of blockage, right? And it was frustrating. And I didn't feel the momentum in my position. I also didn't feel the momentum in the company. It led to an unfortunate layoff, which kind of like came out of nowhere, got a call on a Wednesday, which it's no meeting Wednesdays in this company. And I was a part of, at the time, I was told one of 20. I did make a post on social media immediately after because here I am, new salary. I relocated to Tampa, Florida from South Carolina. You know, I'm paying for bills. I'm paying this lifestyle now that you're offered a small severance. So I said, hey, I'm going to post on social media. I felt like I made some good connections, right? Like here we are a couple months later. We met in Toronto,
Yep.
not in Toronto, in
At
Vegas.
Vegas.
Yeah, at the Mint. And I had a lot of outreach. And unfortunately, one of those outreach happened to come from that company
I
telling
almost
me
got you the day of for a
you
juicy interview.
almost got me. And I'm not going to say I was mad that the layoff happened because, in a sense, they did me a huge favor.
Yeah.
I don't even think I've scratched the surface of my potential in the hobby. And I'm not saying that to, puff my chest or whatever the saying wants to be. I just think I can bring an element to it that's never been brought before. However, they reached out, in a sense, kind of threatened me to take it down, or my severance would be I guess discontinued. So
Absolved.
here I am like, okay, well, I need the money. This came out of nowhere. I'm only 3 months in, so I had to take it down. It's unfortunate. I don't know the direction where they're going. I don't think it's up. And the opposite of that is down. So that's kind of
Ooh.
where I can leave you guys with that.
Ooh. So I'm curious, why do you think the direction is down?
I'm probably going to provide an answer that's not going to give you what I want to say, just because it's probably the right thing to do, right? I think there's a lot of just chaos, as I mentioned early. You have a lot of people who are trying to be something in a startup, and it creates a lot of confusion. You're trying to also have them extend their outreach of what they're not good at, and it makes you mediocre at everything. You have to find what you're good at, stick to it. And that's why they bring you in as social media specialist, because you know what you're doing. You don't need somebody who is a card expert or said something else, working on the app to come back and give you feedback. Hey, this isn't a good edit or this isn't a good video. You're essentially not, you don't have the credentials to critique that. So that was
Yeah.
my frustration. But they brought in some members from previous companies that are some big names in the hobby, from my understanding, and to ate up a huge salary. So it's almost like they kicked a lot of us to the curb. And I want to put this out there. I am not, for crazy like women's rights and, I'm going to march the streets. And I'm cool with just being one of the boys in the sports hobby. Like that's just who Candace is. But from my research, most who've gotten laid off and replaced have been women. And that puts a bad taste in my mouth.
I mean, that puts a bad taste in mine. And I already didn't have a
Yes.
fantastic taste in my mouth about this company, to be honest.
Yeah. So to me, that's a little bit, and you're going to pride yourself on being the most diverse company, in Silicon Valley, and you put up all these articles on a LinkedIn page, and that's just not the truth. So yeah, it's to me, I just don't have respect for that.
I don't either. Another thing, it's so funny you mentioned when like companies start like bringing in oversight to especially from like at the content creation perspective, right? Like
Right.
I don't know if they understand metrics, I don't think they understand, the purpose of some content is not
They do
viral.
not.
Everyone wants to go viral, but they don't understand that like you have to build brand, right? Like, and so much of building
Correct.
brand is like it's not going to be something that's highly shareable all the damn time, right? Like it's like it's a
Correct.
mainstay on your page that people can come to and be like, wow, I really took something from this. And like it's about building that credibility and building that level of I guess like mutual respect. Like it's just so funny that everyone wants virality, right? Like that's like, because I mean I speak to a lot of companies too, right? And
Right.
there's a lot of times where I feel like companies have unrealistic expectations on like what you are going to make happen in what period of time, right? Like it's not about going viral. Like maybe one post goes viral, but in fact, you really don't want that virality. You want people who are sticking to your brand. They're coming to you for whatever the case is, or
Agreed.
like, market updates or news, or I mean,
Sure.
maybe that viral post puts you on the map for a period of time, but it's unsustainable. And like truthfully, it's like boring and annoying, like it's like right away when someone's trying to go viral
I
with a
would
post.
I would agree with that. And coming from somebody that went viral, I mean, again, 2,000 followers over 222,000 in probably less than 3 weeks. I mean, it was insane what happened. I didn't ask for it. I
But
didn't
that's part
anticipate
of
it.
it though. That's what I'm trying to say to you, right? Is like it's
And
not
it's right. It can't be planned for.
you
And in
can't
a
you can't
sense,
want like I want to go viral. I want to go viral. I
you
want to go
just
viral, right?
cannot.
That's
No, there's really no formula for going viral. It's just what the audience likes at the time. If it's shareable, if they, it makes them feel some type of way. And in a sense, it's a blessing and a curse, right? Like it is a blessing that I have the platform that I do, but it's also a curse because here I am and I feel every single day obligated to post.
yeah.
Now, when I went viral 6, 7, 8 months ago, that was in a different niche. And now I'm jumping into the card space, right? And yes, a lot of my followers previous are, males who are into sports, right? That is like 98% of my audience. But as you and I both know, not all sports fans are collectors,
Yeah.
right? So like they might not take to my new hobby content as well as what the actual niche is going to. So I'm going through a rebranding myself. It is a lot of question marks, a lot of homework. It makes me feel all kinds of different emotions. Like, can I do it? Am I providing the content that they want? But you're right. It's just not something that you can really plan for.
No. Like
But
you can
you can be
change
ready. You
things,
can
and
be
like
ready
and
for
but you
it.
can also like, fix you work on hooks, you work on
Call to
delivery,
actions.
tonality,
Exactly.
right? Like there's a lot of things that you
Yes.
can improve on to make your content better and more consumable in general. But
Yes.
to go in with every piece of content, be like, this is going to go viral, or hopefully this goes viral, like you're just
Yeah.
not going to get very far and you're going to lose steam real quick, right? And I
Very
guess they think that if they pay for a piece of content, or they pay for, you to create content that, like,
Yes.
there's like XYZ deliverables in terms of like metrics that they're gonna
Right.
get. And
Right.
that stuff is like,
It's
you're
it's
just you're losing the plot. You don't understand.
right. It's not always the case. And here's another thing. Virality doesn't equal followers, right?
Yes.
So just because somebody goes viral, like how many times have you and I seen a viral video, liked it, and went to their page, or maybe never have and never followed the person, right? So like that doesn't always equal followers. However, if you have, relatable content, or if you have, your branded content on the page, it might. So you have to position yourself to be ready for that. And at the time I was in my niche, right? Like
Yeah.
they would come to my page and it was me in the studio posting pictures of me out in the field doing interviews. But now it's different. So they're coming back to my page and they're like, wait, I followed this girl because she was, dancing with heels, playing with the basketball in a studio, but now she's talking about sports cards. But it also gives me the opportunity and platform to introduce the hobby to way more people now that
Yeah.
might have not ever considered it. So again, that's kind of my mentality headed into here. I am a collector. Some people are in this space maybe just to make money or to create videos, and that's fine. Everybody has their own angle. But I'm somebody that can't fake my way through it. So if I'm going to be in this, I'm going to be digging through the cards, setting them off to get graded, trying to sell and whatnot, doing all the things that collectors do. So that's kind of where I'm at with my content. And, hopefully people see that and my previous followers can be like, hey, you know what, this is kind of cool, and introduce them to a new side of sports.
I have a question for you. So
Yes.
you're essentially trying to do what Fanatics is trying to do, right? You're trying to, because Fanatics has
Sure.
essentially the fan, right? They
Yeah.
already have the fan. And as you said, not every fan collects, right?
Right.
They might want to own a basketball jersey or a baseball hat, but not necessarily buy sports cards, right?
Right.
Or consume sports card related content.
And
So
not to interject,
no, no,
but
go
that's
for it.
kind of where I was prior to 3 months ago before I
Yeah,
got into the hobby.
yeah,
I never thought of collectibles being an actual industry, right?
yeah,
Like I have a degree in sport management, in communications. I'm a Division 1, former college basketball player. And I never thought, hey, like there is actually a whole nother side of sports. And you're right. It's almost what Fanatics wants to do, right?
So how do you plan on bridging that gap? And like I've had this conversation a few times with people. Like I think that we need to have more people bridging the gap, whether it's bridging the gap of people who enjoy sports and consumable sports card and collectible content. Like what is your game plan to build the gap, or to bridge the gap?
Storytelling. I am a storyteller by heart. I know that's the new trend word. Everyone, oh, storytelling, job storytelling. We all want to tell stories, but my background is a journalist. I know
Yeah.
how to tell a story in 10 seconds. I can tell a story in 20 minutes, whatever that asks of me. And that's going to be my angle headed into national, right? Like I'm going to start sharing those stories of, why somebody collects this player, or it doesn't even have to be a card. Maybe it's a photo, maybe it's a shoe. I think the hobby is lacking that. And maybe Fanatics brings that. I don't know. But I can promise you nobody's going to go as hard as I can with finding those stories. My old saying when I worked in news was everybody on the roster has a story. And that is going to go the same with the hobby. Every person in the hobby, every card, every collectible has a story of how the person got it, the background of the card, if it was passed down, things like that. So that's my angle. And just kind of a quick little thing here too. I also want to connect pediatric cancer to it. And this is something that it's going to be a long-term project that I've been sitting down the last week. I want to do, kids and cards, cancer and cards type of deal. I was affected by it by my nephew. He got diagnosed with osteosarcoma. Him and I have been diving into cards and it's brought him happiness. And if I can use my platform to merge the worlds and bring those other kids who are going through chemo and are sick and might not get the news that they want. That's something that this industry can bring. So that's kind of a long-term project with Candace Martino TV. My hope is when I sell like on Whatnot and get involved in the community, all those proceeds are going back to, cards and cancer, to pediatric cancer. And that's just, if I can leave that small little impact in the hobby and, change lives like that, I'm doing something right.
Thank you for sharing that. That's like
Yeah, of
incredible,
course.
impactful, and it's important to have like a vision outside of like just notoriety and what does success look like to you? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it, it gets old really quickly if like you're just in it for clout, right? Like, and I think that
I
that
don't
over
I
the
don't
course,
need it.
no,
I'm
I don't,
not saying it
I
because of
don't
my
need it,
no, I'm not
I'm
saying it
just,
because of my
I'm
fault.
just,
Like, I don't care.
I'm just kidding.
It's almost I have to remind myself every day, like Candace post, people are actually genuinely interested in what you're doing. I never had this vision of, hey, like go viral on social or build this social media following. It just came to me. And sometimes when that happens, it's you just do it for the right things. And that's why I'm here to stay. I love sports. I love storytelling. And if I can connect all my passions together, then, I'm going to leave it a better place than what I found it.
That's the goal always, man. Every conversation,
Always.
every room that you're in, every person you talk to. I love that. Talk to me about your collecting journey now. So you said,
Yes.
even a few months back, had no
It's
idea what the hell was going on in this space, right? So you've
it's
had to
been
start
a journey.
from ground zero. What are some of the things that you've learned already? Like, what are some of the things that you thought before that you're like, okay, fuck that, like that doesn't work?
Okay, so prior to getting in this space, I have watched a ton of videos and it's like, this $20,000 lot deal went down, or I just picked up a $50,000 card. So as a rookie in the hobby, my mind was like, holy shit. Like, I don't know if I can say that on here, but holy
I mean, I
shit.
literally just said, fuck, we're good.
I I do not have the funds to purchase that card.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like there's just no way. I missed the boom. Like I cannot get anything out of this. I'm not going to get a card I ever wanted. So that was very misleading. And when I first got into it, even being a creator, I'm like, well, all I see are flipping videos or deals. And like, that's just not me. And I tried to make a video like that and I'm not going to fake it. That wasn't me. And
You're
that's
just like,
not
I
the route.
feel awful here,
So I
like,
said, like,
yeah.
you're not going to see me making deals. That's just not who I am, on camera, at least. But then I go to Target, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to retail stores and just buy up a bunch of junk that I had no business probably doing. You probably saw the post with Monopoly,
Yeah.
which went like semi-viral on Twitter. I had a good time doing that. Learned my lesson though, right? So like me and some family members, we bought up like 93 boxes, ran to every Target, probably in South Florida, ripped a bunch to only find out like we broke even or, we lost money. It was
Yeah, I
fun.
mean, breaking even is like
Yeah.
it might equate to like dollar for dollar, but then you have to
Yeah.
actually sell
It
that
was,
stuff. Do you know
yes,
what I
like
mean? Like
uploading it on eBay,
it's
taking the pictures. It was so time consuming. I said, I will never do this again, ever. Learn my lesson. And then, I start doing my research, and that's one of the biggest things, research, watching other YouTube videos, going on the internet, chat GPT. I'm a big AI person. I'm actually doing a project right now with a new app called Artiste AI, which you can generate your own image from. They're based out of Hong Kong. So I'm doing some marketing with them, but that was just a little side plug.
little plug.
So I did my research and I found out like, there's different ways where you can start collecting. And that's going to the card shops and not necessarily buying $600 hobby boxes. You can spend time searching through bins and hope to find, a card in somewhat decent shape. So that's kind of where you'll find me. I always make jokes on my social media page now because I feel like a lot of people overlook it or they don't want to put in the hours, spending 5 hours searching through a bin and maybe coming up with like two good cards. I like that. I mean, I pride myself on hard work and hustle, but also I'm learning so much. Physically touching those cards and going through them and seeing the different makes and the names. And there's no better way to learn than actually getting your hands on it that way and kind of getting in the trenches and down and dirty. So that's where you'll find me in the dollar bins. But a quick little story, again, relating back to my nephew. He
Go
was
for it.
getting treatment in New York. In Upper East Side. They walked past a home where this older gentleman was throwing out a bunch of cards. And he stopped and he said, "Hey, these could be worth a lot of money, or you don't want to keep them." The guy said, "Take them. My dad passed. I don't have time looking through them." So he brings them home. And it was my dad, my mom, my nephew, and myself on a Friday night, like a month or two ago, digging through a ton of cards, players that maybe I didn't know about. He certainly didn't know about, being 15, 16, 17 years old,
Yeah.
but my parents, even, my mother knew about, right? So just hearing my dad or my mom's, bring him back to their memory of their, being a kid and collecting the cards. And, I'm from Pittsburgh. So pulling out the Pittsburgh cards, Pittsburgh Steelers, it was a big deal. And that's a memory I will never forget. And that is why, I don't care to be in it for the money. It's fun. And that's a story, right? Like that goes back to my core of Candace Martino. That's the story of generations sitting and looking through cards. Doesn't matter if they were worth 100,000 or a penny. The story was there and those memories will go with you forever.
I couldn't agree more. It's funny. I got into like collecting sports cards from my mom actually gave me her sports cards that she collected in like the 90s. Like she literally
Yeah.
just like
Isn't that
handed
incredible?
me like a massive book, like she's just like, here you go. Now, I mean, the culture that we've kind of like created is like, how much are these worth? And
Yeah.
like I guess everyone kind of wants to know what things are worth, and turns out they're not worth very much. But I mean, I hold them quite dear to me. Some of
Yeah,
the like,
exactly.
it's the fact that she put so much time and energy into this for a period of her life is pretty fascinating. Uh, it's funny you talk about going through dollar bins and like priding yourself on like hard work and like doing the ugly stuff, and I think that's why you and I kind of, I mean, we bounce well off each other.
Yes.
I'm on the same page. I'm all about when it comes to like, I get my kicks from buying a card for like $1 that's like actually like $6. And like there's not much, it's not like literally like a $5 difference. People are like, why the hell are you wasting your time? Like I like being in there. I like
Yeah.
finding opportunities. And oftentimes like I'll find guys that, or players in general, that maybe have an opportunity on a team, but no one's really seen them. Like I love the diamond in the rough kind of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
the underdog
I
story
I
is
would
my
agree.
jam. You know what I mean?
I would
Uh,
agree. And in short as well, like, with Messi to Miami, right? Like I'm in Tampa right now. It's a huge buzz. The MLS is on the rise. Now I'm starting to look through those bins and finding soccer players that, I had no business prior even knowing their names. So
Yeah.
I'm learning. I mean, just repeatedly seeing these names and you're learning, you're flipping on the back of the card and you're reading, like truly I'm getting so much value out of almost essentially a valueless box, right?
Yeah. Like a box that
So
people otherwise just like throw it
yeah,
to the
they just
side and like whatever it does, it does. You know what I mean?
whatever. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna front. There is a side where I'm sourcing, right? Because I am gonna sell on whatnot. And again, the plan to that is to give back to, cards and cancer.
Hmm.
So like you're gonna see me sourcing, you're gonna see me getting on whatnot, building my page, but that's in my hopes that, my platform will provide it to give to somebody else now, right? To bring them the same joy and happiness that it provides for us.
Are we
Um,
sponsored by Whatnot?
no,
No.
no.
Just
I'm
we want
not
to do we
sponsored
want to
by
do we
Whatnot.
want to be sponsored by Whatnot?
It could be a plug, maybe Whatnot, get me on the channel. I just set up my account, so I think I have like 27 followers. But
Talk to me. Why
yeah,
Whatnot? Why is that
it
like
seems like it's the industry leading platform, right? For like live selling. I don't know if I'm late to the party. I feel like it had its boom in like 2020, 2021.
yeah, but
It
live
just
selling is here to stay, period. So it's just a matter
Yeah,
of like
it
kind of
just
where,
seems
right?
super easy. And I've bought a few times, on Whatnot the last week or two, and it's just so easy to swipe and bid. Now from a seller's perspective, I don't know the process, right? Like as far as printing labels and the percentage they take out, but I know it's probably easier than eBay. Like doing the Monopoly
You're not
cards
a big
on
eBay fan?
eBay. No. And
No?
here's why. Okay, like sidebar, I'm a huge sneakerhead. You'll probably see me at the shows with like a ton of
I mean, I see
Jordans.
behind you and I want to ask you about those
Yeah, like
afterwards.
you
Yeah.
got yeah, I got Jordan stuff, shoes everywhere. So I sold on eBay for a while, especially during COVID. And it was to the point where I was running to the Nike stores, the outlets, certified refurbs, getting these Jordans, flipping them back and forth, back and forth. Now, I lived 7 minutes from the outlet at that point. So it was like every day I was getting the new shipments in, uploading them on, so, on eBay. And because I was doing it in such abundance and selling a lot, eBay kept pulling down my posts. So it's like I would come
Really?
back and my store would have 0 items listed. Super bizarre. I would like reach out to them and they'd get back to me and say, well, it's fraud. And I said, it is not fraud. I will provide you the receipts from Nike that these are legitimate. So I think that kind of, pushed me away from the platform, and I'm open to using a newer version, right? Which would essentially be Whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, I don't know. eBay for me is like, especially when it comes to sports cards, I don't think there's ever going to be, I mean, I don't know about ever, but there are more people on eBay searching up cards than probably anywhere else, right? So
Yeah.
just the sheer volume of sports cards that they do on a regular basis, like I sell stuff on eBay that I would not be able to sell anywhere else,
I would
like at
agree.
any point. Like a lot of the stuff that I list on eBay is stuff that is probably just going to sit in my closet, and the only difference is like now it's passively sitting online for someone to
Yes.
either offer on or like eventually buy. Or I'm like, oh
Yeah,
wow, I can't
I
believe that sold,
I would agree
you
with that.
know? But I
And
guess
there's a
like
lot
when it
of
comes to like liquidity, like it depends on like what the play is for what you have, right? If it's something that you want liquidity for quickly, I mean, a live selling is the way to
yeah.
go, right?
Yeah. I think essentially too, my vision is, and as a creator, and you probably know this as well too, you can never be married to a platform, right?
No,
Because like, Threads just popped up, right? And now you got Elon rebranding
X.
Twitter to X. And it's like you cannot be married because at any second another platform can pop up. So with that, my kind of vision with the live selling, and I have this little device over here that I can stream on multiple platforms at once. So not only will I be on, Whatnot, but essentially when I'm able to scale up, you're going to see me live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all at the same time to extend that reach. So again, I'm not married to a certain platform. If one better pops up, then great. But I feel you with eBay with the reach. But there's also some shady stuff, like being in the sneaker industry and being on Discord, people know how to rig like the views, right? And get on those bots. And like I used to bot for sneakers. I know it's super frowned upon, but taught myself how to do it. And you get on these discords, these cook groups. I don't know if there's like card cook groups,
I mean,
but
yeah, there definitely is for all the drops. Man, it's hard to get
yeah,
product these days.
exactly. So I
Yeah.
used to do that with sneakers, and I have a bot that could do it with essentially anything I want. They're very expensive to run. Like I will tell you, I spent an ungodly amount at the height of the pandemic on this bot, and you got to buy proxies, IP address, like all this stuff. But, then there's like always people are just a little sleazy. It's like, okay, well, just type into the eBay bot, your link, and then times 100. And next thing you know, your view will have your post will have 1,000 views. So when someone goes searches it, your shoe or your card or whatever will pop up at the top. So there's always a way around it, but
There's shady shit everywhere.
there's
You know that?
just shady shit everywhere.
Everywhere, everywhere, especially in like
And you just
unregulated markets. You know what I mean? Like
yes.
this is, I don't know, it's kind of
Yeah.
like what you sign up for. And as long as like, I mean, your business practices are genuine,
Yeah.
like that's all we can
Here,
really
here's
fucking
a
do.
question I have for you.
Go for it.
Do you think crypto will make its way into the sports card market? Like I know the older generations like, hey, cold hard cash, like, they're even a little like, PayPal, okay, Cash App. But do you see crypto in an app maybe like, hey, send me crypto in return for cards?
I mean, I'm sure it's already happened. I'm sure
Yeah.
like at the height of crypto, I'm sure there was a lot of people trading crypto for sports cards. What I'm most interested in is the blockchain for cards
Yes.
and for, because I think that we can track like the lineage of things. I mean, I've spoken extensively to a company that's working on authenticating through the blockchain. And so there's a lot of things coming up where, you question the authenticity of a patch, or whether the player actually wore it, or whether that's actually that person's autograph. Like some of Messi's autographs that are floating around, there's like a fable that one of his uncles or someone in his immediate family signed cards for him, and none of that would be in question if it was authenticated directly through the blockchain right? Like and it's like as simple as a QR code at the back of a card or on a
Yeah.
slab or something of that nature, right? So I think that the hobby has a long way to go. I think just in accepting change in general.
Yeah. I would agree.
I think that it's just very interesting that the people who have been in it for quite some time are just they seem to be very resistant to change, even if it could result in positive. Oftentimes it does result in positives, right? Um, but it's just like as money starts to come in,
Yeah.
they want to accept the fact that like their stuff is worth more,
Yeah.
but they also don't want to accept all the stuff that comes with that. And like you can't have
Yeah.
one without the other, right? Like your
So
cards are up exponentially because all these other people join the
because it's
market
supply and
and
demand.
and
Right.
you know what I mean? And so you can't have like nothing change, because if nothing changed, then your cards would still be worth the same amount, right? So
Yeah.
there needs to
So I had a little experience with that
yeah.
in Dallas. I don't know the older gentleman's name, but I'm sitting doing my work, looking through the
Are you
bins.
about to call someone out by name?
No, I
I was
would
like,
never do
fuck.
that. I would never do that. But if the person's name's like, Sam, like there's a
Yeah,
million
yeah,
Sams in the world. But
yeah.
he's sitting there, he's a vendor. And a couple kids come up to him. Hey, what would you take for this card? I'm doing a trade up challenge or whatever the case may be. Like, are you buying? And I could just hear him in the back of the room saying, do you guys even collect? It's not all about trading up. It's not all about making money. You guys are treating this as a stock market. And then the kids would just like completely deflate their energy and walk out of the room because it's almost in a sense like demoralizing, right? Like you're getting scolded by somebody from an older generation. And I'm like, he does have a point, but also like everybody is able to do what they want. And then
Yeah.
because of those kids coming in there and they're learning to flip and they're moving the market, like that is why it's going to continue to grow. Right. And, when I was a kid, I was not making business deals at 8 years old.
Yeah.
I think that's incredible that they're doing that. And it's going to take them further, whether they stay in cards or they go off into finance, they're going to be super successful. And it's a huge teaching tool for everybody. But just, seeing that resistance to change. But here he was as a vendor trying to sell. So what different is if, they're selling quickly and you're selling slowly?
And also, I mean, you have no idea when he acquired something. I mean,
Yeah.
he could have acquired something at that show for
Right.
at a
And
discount and then put it directly into his showcase. And now all of a sudden you're technically flipping too, just not
yeah,
announcing it, right? So
there's
like,
just so many different avenues and angles that you can take in the hobby. And that's why it's so incredible, right? Like your perspective is different from mine and vice versa with everyone. And that's why it's a special place and it will continue to grow because it's inclusive to really anybody. And that's kind of why I'm still here, 3 months later. First off, it's not easy kind of being one of the only few females in the room, right? Like I'm used to my sports broadcast background, being in these rooms with male dominated, pretty comfortable. I'm an athlete, I get it. But when you step into, the hobby, sometimes it's not as inviting. And I was fortunate enough, our local card show here, Bay Area Card Show, man, I met some great people. And they're probably the reason why I'm still in it. Like, hey, it's, we'll teach you or let's like give you some advice. And they became friends. And the point, like, we're meeting up every week talking and getting lunch together and trying to build our own local show. But all it took was just one really good experience in a local show, right?
yeah,
And here I am headed to the national with, X amount of other people and ready to have a good time with it.
it's awesome. You talked about stories. I mean, you've given us a lot of stories. Give me one story that you think has prepared you for what you've gone through in the last 8 months.
One story, I would probably say this. So the reason why I started on social and I kind of stuck up for myself, so I didn't get a job that I really wanted. It was a Pittsburgh TV station. I'm from Pittsburgh. Would have been the first female weekend sports anchor. I'm a pretty defined athlete from that area. Would have been a huge homecoming for me. Flew me up, wine and dine me. Didn't get it, and I kind of had a chip on my shoulder, right? Like, I'm going to show them like they made a horrible decision. And I ended up going to social media, not because I wanted to go viral, because I just wanted to get a job, a better job than Pittsburgh. I ended up going viral and here I am in an opportunity now that I never would think, right? So 6 months ago was, I'm going to go to ESPN, I'm going to do the traditional local TV, regional ESPN, but now like this has prepared me because of the digital age that we're in. I mean, look at us. You and I are having a great conversation via the computer.
Yeah.
Where 10 years ago, like, sure, that might have been a thought, but not really. Like, this is the norm. And social media has taught me that there is not just one way to go and follow your dreams. And you can, blaze your own path. And as long as you're working towards something, like you will get there. It doesn't, one person's trajectory isn't the same as yours. And that moment kind of taught me, like, you do not have to follow what, maybe Erin Andrews did, right? Like she worked for a team.
Yeah.
You worked for a network. She went to ESPN, things like that. Like you can still get there. Just stay true to yourself, right? And like, don't get pushed around. Like my job at first, a couple months ago, they did not want me posting, not the one in the space, but in my broadcast. And to the point where they either told me I would quit posting or I got fired, right? So I said, screw you guys. Like I'm aware of change that's happening.
Yeah.
I'm adapting to it. And I walked out. So that's my advice. And that's the story that kind of got me started in the digital media realm.
I love it. What have you followed up on who actually got the job for that Pittsburgh station?
Yeah, I did.
Do
She
you
does a really
like,
good, yeah,
yeah?
she does a good job. I still watch, my parents will still text me here and there and just say, hey, I watched, and, they miss me being on local television, but again, the pay was not good. So I was so focused on, if that one person just saw me that could get me to ESPN
So
and
like
you're
it wasn't
working.
even like that wasn't even the goal. That was just like a
It
stepping stone.
wasn't. No, it's just a stepping stone
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get to the final destination. And here I am, my whole world just was like flipped, right? And I got into cards and I see so much potential for everybody that's trying to create. Like, and now you have fanatics coming into this space with the connections and the athletes. Like the opportunities are endless for everybody, from breakers to collectors to creators. Like they're just keep going because something good will come out of it if that's truly what you want.
I agree 100%, man. And this is coming
Yeah.
from someone who, for like 10 years almost was working in person and was like, I was working at a gym and I was a trainer and it's all I really knew.
Yeah.
And at one point, probably something that the biggest fear I had was losing my job because I was like, what am I going to do if I lose my job?
That's
And
that's what
that
happened to me,
that
you
came to
know?
reality when COVID happened, and I was like, all right, well, this you got to fucking pivot. You got to figure it out. You have to, all of a sudden I'm like talking to my phone, I'm making 30-second videos on my phone.
Your
I'm like,
videos are great.
I'm like,
Like
I
just
can't believe I became this person. Like, I
yeah.
honestly, if you were like gonna go back and talk to me 3-4 years ago and be like, hey, this is how you become. Like, this is your trajectory. You'd be like, what the fuck are you
Yeah.
talking about? Like,
Yeah.
I don't
The
even use
person
Instagram. I
who
don't use
pivots the
TikTok.
most will always win. And it's the same thing with basketball, right? Like how many times does the game just go back and forth, back and forth? If you're the quickest, or you can think fast and you make the right decisions, like you will succeed. And that's kind of what the digital era teaches us, like look how much it's exploded the hobby. I've only been in for 3 months and it's just like, massive growth.
Has it been
You're
crazy just
seeing
seeing all these announcements like from Fanatics on like a weekly
always,
basis? Like,
I'm
how
just
does
like,
that?
I'm trying to get
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
bearings right with all this. Because I don't know the history of it as well. So like sometimes when there's an announcement made, I don't know the power of it. But I do
I mean, that's
know obviously.
honest. That's
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
it's a
I'm not
fresh perspective, right? Because I feel like so many people in the space pretend that like they know everything. And I think
yeah.
that's again
No,
one
it's
of
all
the
it's
issues. It's
bullshit.
like,
Like
yeah,
one of my things that I always say is like believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. So, I might be sitting there and someone has something to say, like I just take it with a grain of salt,
yeah.
and whether they're in the hobby for a long time or not, like some people just don't know everything and that's fine.
But also, if you're
Just
gonna get those people who
yeah,
don't have no association with the hobby
yeah,
whatsoever, you
yeah,
can't treat them like the fact that they don't know anything is
yeah,
like a deterrent. You're like, I
yeah,
can't talk to you because you don't know anything about the hobby,
yeah,
right? Like it's
yeah.
like, oh, you don't know any of the history. I'm like, okay, but that's why I'm in front of you. That's why I'm having this conversation, right?
Right.
Like that's why,
Yeah.
right?
In a
So
sense, my whole storytelling with my brand, it's like I'm learning
Yeah.
as I ask these
Yeah.
people these stories. So they're telling me histories of, the 1952 Mickey Mantle card and like why this photo or whatever's so special. And I'm learning while I'm sharing the stories with the hobby to entertain and to educate. So it's a recipe that I'm excited for. I think it's going to be super successful, and I'm excited to show what I have to the hobby and be a part of it.
I'm happy to have such a positive voice in the space. Candace, where can everyone find you if they wanted to contact you about sponsorships, about anything sports related? Maybe just want
Yeah.
to talk to you.
It's my social media is at CandaceMartinoTV. Some social media platforms it's at Candace Martino. Yeah, message me. I go through it all myself. I don't have anybody that I work with. I'm a solo creator. So I will get back to you. I do respond to emails, anything. And I love the conversations because without the community, I do not have the platform. And the community comes first. Before the camera, before the editing, before all the clout, social media clout, it's the community first.
Amazing. I want to thank you once again for jumping on the podcast, and I am looking forward to chatting it up at the national.
I appreciate it. Safe travels, and I will see you there.
See you there. Take care.